morning, traders. I'm Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Thursday, September 11th. Before we dive into today's markets, it feels right to pause and reflect. Today marks 24 years since September 11th, a day that forever changed our country, New York City, and the financial industry itself. We honor the lives lost, the first responders, and the resilience of all who rebuilt and carried forward. Never forget. Now, turning to Wall Street, investors are watching fresh inflation data today after yesterday's producer price index came in unexpectedly lower, a welcome surprise. It was a mixed but record-setting session. The S&amp 500 notched a new all-time closing high, up 19 points or 0.3%, buoyed by strong gains in Oracle. The Nasdaq barely edged higher, closing up 6 points or 0.03%, while the Dow lost 220 points, down 0.5%. Bill, let's get into today's action. What is happening in the markets this morning?
Yeah, well, listen, watching the S&Ps, we're showing a gain of 0.23%, which is where we've been almost all morning long, up to 0.22, 0.24, 0.23. This is where we're at this morning. So we're seeing positive action. I mean, there's still that euphoria over Oracle's comments on their earnings report. I mean, the earnings weren't great, but they're what's going on over there is just phenomenal. And today we got a lot going on. We got that CPI report coming out 1 hour before the opening bell. We got an ECB meeting coming out this morning. Okay, the ECB is not expected to do any change in rates, by the way, but they will be making a monetary policy statement at 8:15 this morning. One of the key things that I thought was interesting was comments out there that says the Trump administration is considering new curbs or tariffs on Chinese pharmaceutical imports. Interesting. I've been talking about it all week. There's been a lot of, corporate sell side. There's been a lot of sell side presentation by the companies this week. There's conferences going on all over the country, and for the most part, what's coming out of them is that the quarter results appear to be broadly on track, which is positive. And there are some exceptions. I mean, Alcoa and Carrier, ticker AA and CARR, they indicated some operational weakness in their recent updates, but everybody else seems okay. What else we got? We got Boeing. Boeing reached a tentative agreement with their striking union members. That's positive. On the earnings front, you got CARR, released this morning. You look at the stock, and it's essentially flat this morning. And then, what else do we have after the bell today? We got ADBE and ticker RH, formerly known as Restoration Hardware. They're going to be reporting. We're, looking over at global markets this morning. We're going to start off with the DAX. The DAX opened up lower. I mean, it was lower for a while, but now it turned green. It's up 42 points or 0.18%. I mean, I didn't expect a lot of volatility here in the DAX because, you got that ECB meeting, you get the CPI data coming out, and that's kind of keeping the indexes a little bit in check, especially the DAX. Then you got the FTSE. Now the FTSE's got 0.45%, and you're seeing some strength in defense stocks, mining stocks, and energy stocks. The CAC comparison, this is a little bit different. That's up 0.79%. But they're also waiting on the ECB, but they're also displaying some optimism over the appointment of that new prime minister. So that's kind of like a conclusion to some of the political issues they were having over there. So I'm not surprised to see the CAC trading higher. But the DAX is kind of flat up, so we'll keep an eye on it. Then we're turning our attention over to Asia last night, and Asia generally saw gains. I mean, the Nikkei jumped 534 points. That's 1.22%. I mean, the fact of the matter is, there was good action in tech. Tech was positive, and the sentiment in Japan is improved in the third quarter, mainly because of a rebound in exports to the U.S. because people are trying to get their exports there before the new 15% blanket tariffs hit. Hong Kong fell. That fell 0.43%. And why? Because the pharmaceutical sector was weakened. The pharmaceutical sector was weakened because there's talk of Trump putting tariffs or curbs on Chinese imports of pharmaceutical goods. So that overtook that index. But you look at China, the Shanghai, that actually rose 1.65%. Big gain. I mean, and it was led by tech, especially any stocks, tied to AI or cloud computing. Those Oracle earnings, that move yesterday really did help that market. So, China's markets were actually higher yesterday, which is interesting. Looking at where oil this morning, and oil is trading lower. It's down about 1%. You get WTI at $63 a barrel. You get Brent at $66.84 a barrel. Now, this comes after 3 straight days of gains. I mean, yesterday oil was up 2%, so it's just giving a little bit back. And you do have to consider that EIA report on the stockpiles, because it did show a build of 3.9 million barrels, which is bearish for oil prices. So the big gains are starting to pull back a little bit, but those geopolitical issues are still there, so I don't expect it to fall apart. I just expect it to weaken because it's probably the volatility premium is a little bit too high. But that's what I have for you in terms of the morning market update report, Emily.
Bill, you did mention Oracle's earnings, and we're still flying high off of those, and it just proves the point that earnings action can be a major catalyst. So it's important to keep track of that type of information day in and day out, which is exactly what you do using your NewsWare. You have an earnings alert, gathering all of this information as it hits the tape. You're able to play off of this. So let's start here with earnings action. Bill, what is going on now?
Well, I mean, we got to talk about Kroger, ticker KR, Kilo Richard. I mean, they did deliver a beat of 4 cents. It was done on lower revenue. You look at the stock now this morning, it's up 1.45%. So, that's positive. We'll see if they're able to hold those gains or not. But, Kroger beat, so trading higher. Okay. Upcoming after the bell, you got Restoration Hardware. You got our ticker RH, formerly known as Restoration Hardware. Now it's just known as RH. Okay, their EPS is $3.29. Expected move is 14.44%. Cautious there. It looks good, but they're they're not doing their inventory changes. The housing market's slowing a little bit. So I got to be a little cautious with RH. Adobe, ticker ADBE, Apple David, Boy Edward. Their EPS is $5.17, and that expected move is 9.75% when they release after the bell today, Emily. So that's what I have for you in terms of earnings update.
Now we're going to move on to economic events. Obviously, we're still awaiting some more inflation data this after the PPI print yesterday. More data on jobs. And again, this follows revision of payrolls earlier in the week. We're keeping track of this data day in and day out because we're really trying to anticipate what pieces of the puzzle the Fed will use in its upcoming rate cut decision. So, Bill, what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
Well, the CPI is the big one today. That's one that's going to get a lot of attention. I mean, that comes out at 8:30 a.m. But also at 8:30 a.m. you get the jobless claims due out. Now the CPI, the annual headlines expect to rise to 2.9% year over year, which would be up from 2.7% in July, which would be a monthly gain of about 0.2, 0.3, somewhere around there. And then you have the jobless claims. They're expected to come in at 235K. Remember, last week they came in at 237K. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come a little lighter, this morning. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update report, Emily.
Bill, along with earnings action and economic events, catching that CPI print, major headline there when it comes out. You're also following other types of news, data, information using your NewsWare. You break down this information into things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You're able to look at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Listen, I'm doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 20. I got 25 higher, 4 unchanged, 1 unchanged, and 4 lower. So yeah, that's positive action. Then you look at the FANG stocks; they're all trading higher, and then those are the heaviest capital weighted stocks in the S&Ps, which really will define that gain for the day. So yeah, we're going to have a positive open. And if you look at some of the news behind the tape, like Apple, they're going to be reducing their reliance on Broadcom with in-house N1 chips. They came out and said. Amazon's interesting to me. I mean, there's some more gains I think here because Amazon was named the top pick at Morgan Stanley on the fresh grocery opportunity. I don't know about that, but I still like it. I still think that there's gains to be delivered at Amazon. Meta, three Republican senators sent a letter to Meta demanding a response over allegations about security flaws in its messaging platform. Okay. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, Boeing reaches a tentative labor agreement with that striking union out of St. Louis. Remember that union does defense. They do planes and things. So that's actually a real positive for Boeing, ticker BA. Morgan State. What do we get? 3M, Minnesota Mining Manufacturing. They're going to be presenting today at that Morgan Stanley Laguna conference at 3:20 p.m. In terms of guidance news, Carrier Global sees 500 million sales shortfall in Q3 versus their prior expectations. That's ugly. And that's all I have for you in terms of news in the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk Pick of the Day. Bill, cruising through September here. What is your pick of the day today?
I'm gonna go today. I'm gonna go with Boeing, ticker BA, Boy Apple. Um, there's I don't like the earnings that are coming out, so I want to play that an opportunity that I think is going to really take a little that I think is really going to happen in Boeing today. And you look at the tentative agreement with the striking workers of the defense plant in St. Louis. That's a positive catalyst. Now you look at yesterday's option trading. You got 37,000 calls versus 15,000 puts. That's very positive. Open interest is essentially even 531K to 522K, but the major brokers are raising price targets. They do like this stock, and I got to tell you, if I can get in, to this thing at 227.50, I think that would be a great price. And I do think, you can see some strong gains happening in shares of Boeing, ticker BA, Boy Apple today, Emily.
Bill, again, treating the news cycle on that one similar to yesterday's pick of the day, which we will do a recap on in just a moment, so stick with us through that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay, let's see what we have here. So we got American Airlines Delta and Southwest Airlines LUV. They're all presenting today at that Morgan Stanley Laguna event. Bookings Holdings, BKNG, they're going to be presenting at the Goldman Sachs Tech Conference today at 1 p.m., 1:10 p.m. Teva's kind of on watch, TEVA, because of the Trump administration's considering curbs on Chinese active pharma ingredients. Got to keep an eye on that. Deutsche Bank closes its catalyst call buy idea on Mobileye and BLY. AI startup Perplexity has secured commitments from investors for $200 million in new fundings at a $20 billion valuation. Hawaiian Airlines CEO is going to retire at the end of October. He's going to be succeeded by the airline's parent company, Alaska Air Group. So we'll see. A lot of IPO M&A activity is happening this week. JP Morgan is said to be accelerating hiring across its corporate banking business in the Asia Pacific region. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off today, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Dell. Now, Bill, you traded this one following the departure of their long-term CFO. The stock had seen weakness the day before, and you picked this one yesterday, a day following that news, feeling like there could be a slight comeback in the stock. Sure enough, it did get a pretty good gain yesterday. So how did your call work?
Worked out good. I mean, look, the stock opened up at 123.43, and then it ran to a high of 127.12. That's more than the 1%. And I was expecting to go a little weaker in the morning. It didn't. It just took off right from the opening price, which was essentially the low for the day. I mean, we've been going from 123.43 to 127. That's greater than 1%. And you look at the stock this morning; it is trading higher this morning. So that's also positive. But Dell, ticker DELL, was a winner yesterday, Emily.
Bill did as you expected for a win, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Boeing pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow to end your trading week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.